Welcome to NFB-NEWSLINE. Tennessee presents the show that keeps you informed on blindness issues, up to date on innovations, and brings you engaging stories from people like you. Now, on with the show.
Yes, we know the truth.
Today, who and what we are presenting is Loretta Roberts, and she's going to be talking all about I say because it's my favorite, the accessible labeling system, Script Talk. That's SCRIPTALK. So, Miss Loretta, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for having me, everybody. I'm going to start by giving a little bit of background about Envision America because I just love to do that. And then before I talk about Script Talk, that's going to be the very last one I talk about. I'm going to tell you about all of the accessible labels that we offer because Script Talk is not the only one, and a lot of people don't know that. So Envision America started back in 1996, and the cornerstone of Envision America was built on a single premise, and that was to provide people with visual impairments equal access and greater independence through technology. And we accomplished this by focusing on accessible medication labeling. All right. And the best part is by making it free through participating pharmacies. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by talking about all the different type of labeling that we have. The first one I'm going to talk about is our Braille. And the Braille labeling is just a clear strip that goes all the way around the legal label. It will, depending on the type of prescription names and that type of information, will be how much the pharmacist can fit on that prescription. But we did just enlarge those, so most of the information is on there for you. And it goes right across the top of that legal label. Now, the second most common of our accessible labels that I want to talk about is our Script View Large Print. And with our Script View Large Print, this allows the pharmacy to program on this label all the way up to a 26 font. And it comes in a booklet attached to the bottle. It'd be adhered to the bottle with a clear rubber band so you can easily pick it up. Once you take that rubber band off that is also still attached to the bottle, then the little booklet opens up and you'll just turn each page and it'll have every piece of information that's on that legal label in this booklet. Now, also with participating pharmacies, because not all pharmacies do this yet, large print can also be available in dual language. So for the large print dual language, for every line where there's a sentence in English, right under that will be the language of choice for the dual language. We do also have what's called a Script View mobile app for iPhones and Android that are equal to the iPhone 7 or higher. If you have the Script View app on your phone, on the very last page of the booklet is a QR code. If you use your camera to scan that QR code, then it will pick up all the information on this booklet and it can read it to you. Once you're done with it, you just put the little clear rubber band back over the booklet and it adheres it back to the bottle so that you can safely and easily pick that bottle up. Now, something else that we do offer is called our CSS labels. These are our Controlled Substance Safety labels. And what these are available for all controlled substance, and they include links to safety videos that can help you manage these types of medications independently and safely. Now, our most common of all of our labels is called our Script Talk Audible labels. Now, the Script Talk Audible labels, they're great. And the way that they work is the pharmacy is going to program all of your prescriptions into what's called an RFID tag. So it's going to look like a little sticker on the bottom of all your prescription bottles, and it's actually going to say RFID on them. What that stands for is radio frequency identification. Okay. Now, this is a label that once you are set up, the pharmacy will automatically put these on all your prescriptions. So all you have to do is pick up your prescriptions as normal, and then you're going to set your prescription bottle on top of the prescription reading device that we will loan out to you. And we loan them out to you with the understanding that as long as you're using a participating pharmacy, you can always keep that device. If at any time you're no longer able to use a participating pharmacy, then at that time we would send a return label so that it can be returned and eventually loaned to somebody else that can use it. So what you would do is place this RFID prescription bottle on top of the device anywhere once it's turned on, and then you're going to push and release the read button, and it's going to read everything off to you. What I want to do now is kind of describe and explain the device to you. Now, the device can be held in one hand. It's a half moon shaped size. I always like to tell people when I'm talking to them on the phone, if anybody remembers the old CD Walkman players from back in the 80s, it's kind of that shape, that small thickness and everything. So it's easily held in one hand. But if you set the device down on a table with the 3 rubber buttons on the top closest to you, that's how I'm going to describe the device. All right. So the 3 buttons on the top, there's going to be a down triangle, which is the next button, an oval button with a dot, which is your read button. And then on the other side of that oval button is an arrow button that faces up. That's the previous button. Now, these 3 buttons are going to work differently depending on what mode you have the device in. All right. So now when you turn the device on this model that I've got in my hand, which is Script Talk 1, and we did just recently come out with the Script Talk 2, which is identical to it, except for on the 1, the backside is more straight across like a half moon, where the 2 is more of a rounded, and the buttons are the same, the 3 buttons on the top, but the toggle button on the 1 is if you put your fingers on the top of the device and go down the front, the toggle button's right there on the front, and you'll toggle it all the way to the left. When you toggle it all the way to the left, you're going to hear a long, faint beep. You're going to hear a Script Talk station ready, and then 2 dings. Once you hear that second ding, you take your prescription bottle, you set it on top of the device anywhere, and you push and release that read button. You do not want to hold the read button down. If you hold the read button down, it's going to take you into the instruction modes. Once it's in the instruction mode, if you touch those 2 arrow buttons, the next and the previous, you're either going to speed the voice all the way up to where you're not going to be able to understand what it's saying, or you're going to slow it all the way down into spell mode where it's going to literally spell every single word out to you. So if you ever have this in the instruction mode, you want to be very careful that you don't hit those 2 arrow buttons, only the middle one to turn it off, which is your read button as well. Okay. So now when you're in the read mode, you push and release it and it starts telling you about the prescription. If you missed something, you're going to hit the right arrow button, which is your previous, and it'll take you back to what you missed. If you want to skip past something and get to what you want to hear, say for instance, the prescription number, then you're going to hit the next button until you get to what you want to hear. So that's how those buttons are used. Now, like I said, the Script Talk 1 and the Script Talk 2 are identical, except for that toggle button. 1, the toggle button's on the front of the device. Script Talk 2, the toggle button is on the right-hand side. So you'll toggle it towards you to turn it on and back to turn it off. You always want to make sure you hear it click off if you're using batteries, because if you don't, you will run those batteries down and the device will beep, 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 beep until you turn it off. The other difference between the Script Talk 1 and the Script Talk 2, Script Talk 1 is female voice, Script Talk 2 is male voice. Some people that say they can't understand the 1 when they have it, we send them a replacement with the 2, and because it's a male voice, they can hear it a little bit better, and vice versa. There's some that couldn't hear the 2, and we send them to 1 and they can hear it. So, depending on what you get will depend on, what we have to send you if you can't hear it. So for right now, I'm just going to go with the Script Talk 1. And I'm going to toggle this button all the way to the left, and you're going to hear a long, faint beep. You're going to hear script talk station ready, and then 2 more dings. After that second ding, I'm going to put the bottle on top of the device, and then I'm going to push and release the read button so you can hear what's on the prescription bottle. This is what you would hear if it was one of your prescriptions.
Script talk station ready.
Okay, so now I'm taking that bottle, putting it on top, push and release the read button.
Patient. John J. Smith. Medication. Amoxicillin. 250 milligram capsules. Instructions. Take 1 capsule 3 times daily. Quantity, 30. Prescription date, January 10th, 2023. Expiration date, January 10th, 2024. Refills remaining, 0. Prescriber, Dr. Ben Casey. Scriptability Pharmacy. To reorder this prescription, dial 800-890-1180. Prescription number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Warning. Important. Finish all this medication, unless otherwise directed by prescriber. Warning. Medication should be taken with plenty of water.
All right, so once it's done, you just take that bottle off, you toggle it all the way to the right until it clicks and it turns off. And that's how the device works. Now, we also have available, the other way you can listen to these labels is the Script Talk mobile app. So the Script Talk mobile app, a lot of people really love this feature. But with the mobile app, you're going to see on the top left-hand corner, full scan. Top right-hand corner is a quick scan. Now, full scan, you're going to hear everything you just heard on that device, including side effects. If you hit the quick scan, you're only going to hear the name of the medication in milligram. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let you hear the quick scan since we already know what the full scan is going to give you. For iPhone 7 and higher, the NFC, which is the near field communication, which is what's going to read this RFID tag, is on the front up by where the ear is, where you listen when you're on a call. So we're going to click quick scan, and we're going to put the bottle up here until it registers it.
Amoxicillin 250 mg capsules.
So that's all you're going to hear, the name of the medication and a milligram. Now, the other really good thing about the app is down on the bottom. First thing is it's very good with voiceover. So it does work with voiceover. And if you have an Android, it does work with TalkBack as well. On the bottom, there's 3 big blue buttons. The very first big blue button says My Meds. If you click on the My Meds, we all know that when you go to urgent care, doctor, or a new doctor or the hospital, first thing they ask you is what medications are you on? If you click on that, it's going to bring you to a screen that's going to give you a list of the name, milligram, time, and date of every prescription you've scanned. So that's a very good feature to have on there. The next one down is called Find a Pharmacy. If you click on Find a Pharmacy, it's going to bring you to the page where it says Find a Pharmacy using phone data or by putting in a zip code. If you put in by zip code, you'll put your zip code in, and then you'll hit either 5. It's going to ask you for a mile radius. So either it goes from 5 all the way to 150. Then you'll hit search. And then it's going to bring a list of any pharmacies that participate in your area. Now, after you get past that, it's going to bring you to all mail order pharmacies that participate with Script Talk. So there's a list of all of those on there as well.
How do you know which pharmacies will do this?
There's several different ways you can find out. One is you can just call us, and any agent that answers will be able to look up your area and let you know. We also have a team that will work to try, if you're using a pharmacy that doesn't participate, we do have a team that will try to help get them set up. We do get pharmacies set up almost daily. Most of your mail orders participate, and you can have more than one pharmacy. I have some people that have like 3 or 4 pharmacies because they get different meds at different pharmacies because of the cost. So as long as that pharmacy offers it, you can have multiple pharmacies. But you can call us You can go on the Envision America website and hit Find a Pharmacy. It's right at the top of the page. Put in your zip code and put your mile radius, and it'll give you a list of all of them there. If you have the app, you can look on the app.
How long have you been with Envision America and doing this?
I've been with Envision America for 4 years. My first year I was here, I started out as a regular customer service representative. But once I was there, after a few months, I was just so passionate about helping people. And they didn't have anybody that worked directly with advocates. So we had advocates that were, hey, can we have Zoom meetings? Can we do this? Can we, talk to my whole work coworkers to try to get this spread? And I just started, yeah, sure. Let me see if I can get that done for you. And it broke off from there. I'm the first person to ever have this position as an advocate outreach specialist with this company. They've never had it prior to me. The 3 years I've been doing it, it's grown so much. We've gotten so many people set up. I send all of my advocates a form that's called Let Us Do the Work for You. And I tell them all, if you have anybody that needs help getting set up, fill this form out. I will call both the patient and the pharmacy. I'll do all the work to help get them set up. You don't have to do any of it. Just give me that form. I keep track of those forms so I know who's helping the most get people set up.
Loretta, thank you very much. And before we close, would you give your email and the
Absolutely.
Script Talk phone number in case anybody listening would like to contact you to help get their pharmacy and get Envision America products in their pharmacy?
Absolutely. You can reach us by calling 1-800-890-1180. My email address is lroberts, that's ROBERTS, at envision, with an E, America.com.
Loretta, thank you again for joining us on NFB Newsline Tennessee Presents. You've been a great presenter.
Thank you so very much. It's my pleasure.
You and me, NFB, let's dream together. NFB, you and me, lives on forever. You will see, yeah.
Presenting the second part of accessible prescription labeling. We're talking to someone I've interacted with for a few years now, ever since we thought about doing a bill for accessible prescription labeling. Her name is Sharla Glass, and she works for Envision America. Hi, Sharla, and welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about your law going into effect.
It was great when we first started communicating. She told me about how, Envision America does more than the labeling systems. They pretty much cover it all, and they work with states and they work through legislation. On March 14th, 2024, the Board of Pharmacy in Tennessee came down with the laws. But first, we had to get the bill passed. That was a wonderful experience. Now, let's hear from Sharla to talk about what's happened at the Board of Pharmacy and how all this happens and comes into place and what the rules are.
Yeah, so kind of the way that, just backtracking a little bit with the legislation. So during the legislative process, the Board of Pharmacy and the pharmacy associations in Tennessee were at the table. They had an opportunity to express their concerns, and that is, they helped to amend the bill so it got to a point where they were comfortable with it. And so the Tennessee bill is not as specific as some of the other states' bills. And the rule then also reflected that. But I would say the Board of Pharmacy's rule is They just decided to leave it as vague as possible so that pharmacists could do basically whatever they wanted as far as accommodation, like work with patients and, ask them what their accommodation needs are and then work with that. So the rule that they ended up passing, they basically already had this rule written before anybody else could provide any public feedback. The rule they wrote was all reasonable accommodations for individuals who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled shall be made. So again, kind of vague, but it does mean that they have to provide all reasonable accommodations. I know that the Tennessee NFB and myself had expressed to the board that, well, we thought maybe it could have a little bit more specificity as guidance to the pharmacists, but they really felt like keeping it open-ended like that was better. So this is what we have. This is what's in effect. I think it's really important for everyone to know that since it is that vague, that you have to be specific about what you consider is a reasonable accommodation and ask for exactly what you want, because the board didn't, provide specific examples. So whether it's script talk or large print labels, braille, a QR code that goes to an app or any other thing that you need, you just have to make a case that you believe it's reasonable and they shall make it. So I would just encourage people to go ahead and ask their pharmacist for whatever accommodation they want. And, if they say they don't think it's reasonable, then that's when people can go back to the board of pharmacy and be like, okay, well, we think it's reasonable. They think it's not. And then have the board of pharmacy determine whether it's reasonable or not, so that further define it. I'm excited because, bills and rules like this open the door for conversation, and they make it possible for patients to, ask for the accommodations they need. And it makes it possible, it gives us a reason to call them and to educate the pharmacists and provide more information about, being more equitable and accessible. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And I am happy to answer any other questions that people have about what's happened in Tennessee or what's happening around the nation, because there's 8 other states this year that have introduced similar legislation, and Virginia's just passed this week. The governor signed it. So we got at least one more this year.
From talking to people from Memphis to Bristol, Tennessee, and from Chattanooga to the borders of Kentucky, I have found that script talk is the favorite of everyone. Do you have any selling points maybe for the script talk system?
For like when you're talking to your pharmacist?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the first thing is that you can point them to the U.S. Access Board's best practices. That would be, the federal standards. Federal standards are not mandated, but they are, they're listed by the federal government, what the standards for accommodating blind and low vision patients are. And then you can say, script talk and the scriptability system, our labels are the only ones that match all of those best practices. We're the only solution that actually matches all of those. Another thing is that our software is already integrated with most of the major pharmacy chains. Just this year, we finished the integration with McKesson, which is actually the largest pharmacy software system. And so what integration means is that it can be easily worked into their current workflow, which makes filling a lot easier because it can be already built into their existing software system that pulls in the data for them. so they don't have to retype any patient information, which of course is also safer when it's just pulling the information already in and not having to be retyped. And we have all those options available. I guess that's the third point is, they can pick and choose what solutions are going to best meet their patient's needs. And we also provide translation into 25 different languages. So, we can help them also meet those civil rights, language access needs as well for both sighted and vision impaired patients, no matter what language they speak. We really focus on making the pharmacist's job easier and patients safer.
Have you found that it's harder to get them on board than it is the bigger chain stores?
Well, we have most of the big chain stores. Except for Walgreens, we're working with most of the big chain stores. So I'm going to say yeah. But whether that's just because there's more of them or because there's more financial barriers, there's somewhere in between there. Some of the independent pharmacists really pride themselves on the personalized care that they give their patients. And when they learn about this, they happily jump on board. They're excited about it. They're doing community outreach as part of their pharmacy practice already. And so they're not daunted by the little bit of extra work because they consider community outreach part of their practice. But some of the other independent pharmacies, again, especially ones that feel overworked or that are in places where they're really not getting the reimbursements that they need to stay afloat. So when I say that, I mean, they're going to be pharmacies that are in lower income areas where a majority of their patients are Medicaid or Medicare, and the government's not really reimbursing them. Sometimes they even lose money on filling a prescription because the reimbursements do not cover the cost. So they're less likely to provide script talk because they're going to lose further money. So I think it kind of depends on geographical location as well. So geographical location and then their practice philosophy, I guess, are the two contributing factors there.
For someone who is totally blind or very low vision that does not know Braille, audio really is their only option for accessibility for something like this. And if a pharmacist says, well, we don't want to do script talk, are there other options that they can choose from? And I know some of the other ones there are, but they're not as well done as script talk is.
I mean, there is Walgreens does the talking pill reminder. I think Amazon provides the TeleRx device. I haven't seen it demonstrated, but I have heard of other pharmacies having a QR code that your phone can read aloud, which we have a QR code on our large print labels that can do the same thing. So if our pharmacy is only doing the large print label, they can still have that QR code on there for an audible option. So I think the QR code is probably the easiest for pharmacies because you can create a QR code on lots of different platforms. And so if your phone has voiceover, then it can read that text. I'm actually kind of surprised more pharmacies haven't started utilizing that. The downfall is that a QR code can't hold as much information as our RFID tags. So you're not going to get, all the information, but at least it could give you some. And there's also the HIPAA thing. With Script Talk, you at least have to have the app, know about the app, or have the device in order to read the RFID tag, which is a secure RFID tag. So only our app and only our device will read it. But with a QR code, anybody with a phone can read it. So you have a little bit. But then again, with a printed label, anybody who can read it. So
anybody else have any questions for Sharla?
Hey, Sharla, it's Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. I just wanted to tell this group I attended 3 meetings this week, all of which turned out to be extremely positive. And I was happy to be able to add Tennessee to the past dates. And all the representatives that I spoke to today are so eager to make this happen in New York. We can add to that within a year or so. But it's looking good, Sharla. It's looking good.
I
So-
think it's just so beautiful what all these NFB and ACB chapters are able to accomplish. I just see this snowball rolling, and I just tell everybody every conversation is bringing us closer to entire nation of accessibility.
I know the regulations are coming into effect. Does it include every type of pharmacy? For example, the ones in hospitals. Those are the ones I was thinking of, that you can, while you're in the hospital, you can sometimes get your prescriptions filled. Or is it more the, Kroger's, Walgreens, and then the state ones as well?
The law itself says the board of pharmacy shall promulgate rules necessary to ensure that an individual who is blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled has appropriate access to prescription labels, bag tags, and medical guides. In the law, it does not say anything about what kind of pharmacy. In the rules, it says if you're dispensing a label for medical or prescription order, they must bear at least all these things, and all reasonable accommodations for individuals who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled shall be made. This rule shall not apply to medical and prescription orders dispensed by an institutional pharmacy or long-term care pharmacy for administration to inpatients of that institutional facility or long-term care facility, except when medications are dispensed to patients residing in assisted care. So, no, if it's for you to take home, they need to do it. But if it's just for when you're in the pharmacy, when you're in the hospital, they don't.
Okay.
There is going to be room for improvement. And that's where, our first few years are going to tell, how things are going with the way it's written, if we're going to need, amendments.
I have a question. How can we get word out there to other visually impaired and blind folks that are not members of the NFB or ACB that could really use this?
I would say some usual means would be hey, a letter to the editor, this law was passed. Nobody's really talked about it. You should know about it. That could be one way, because I know a lot of people still get the information, posted on the blogs and the things that the social media that you're a part of. Every October we have Medication Safety Awareness Month, and we really promote people to do it then, because all of us together, we're going to do it in this month and inundate people with this idea. But of course, you don't have to just do it in October. And, if you have different chapters of the NFB, maybe your chapter could put out a press release and send it to all your local news stations and stuff, and invite them to come and do a story. Hey, I could do a demo. This pharmacy would love, talk to your pharmacist. Maybe they would be happy to have a little extra promotion by having, a news station or a newspaper include them in the article, or in the, do an interview.
That's what I'm working on with my pharmacist, to do that.
I did a blog is what I work at a SIL for people with disabilities. So we did a blog and just posted it on our website about the legislation and the wonderful press release that y'all helped us do. So
awesome.
And I've sent, information out to all of the independent living counselors here in Tennessee. And so there's lots of little ways to get the information out.
And I will say that the Nashville chapter of the NFB, we've recently created an outreach and engagement committee. We're wanting to target doctors' offices, clinics, diabetes clinics, maybe some senior living facilities. And I think, maybe pharmacies and stuff would be a great way to not only let them know that we're here, and if they come across a patient, here's some business cards. You're welcome to, if we can leave them on your counter or whatever, if you happen to know somebody that could benefit from knowing us, but while we're there, we can also provide them information that might be helpful for their facilities to better serve our population.
Yeah.
Well, I think along with, go ahead.
I was going to say, especially if your city has a accessibility council or something like that.
I think the other part when you're doing outreach, you can talk about this piece of legislation, but often, when you're talking about prescriptions and, the equipment needs to be accessible. It's all well to give me an accessible prescription, but if I can't use the syringe or don't know how, or I don't have access to an accessible glucometer, however you say that right, glucometer. Yep. So educating, not only you have to educate social workers and doctors.
Is there a place where we could check on the status of them?
The best place to go, because I try and keep this blog up to date, is staysaferx.org. There's a list on there of, like, in the tools section, there's a list. There's a timeline, but then there's also the model bill language and all the bills that have ever been introduced.
What about the people like all of us really old people that don't see well anyway? Those are their clients. I mean, they're patients. Yeah. So what do they say about that?
I mean, I don't think they say much. Anybody can ask for the accommodation, though. When pharmacists say, I don't think I have any patients, I'm like, what? You have no patients over the age of 65 with diabetic retinopathy?
I just realized something. You were reading, the law, and then you read the Board of Pharmacy rules. I don't believe there's anything in there that specifically states proof of legal blindness.
Nothing. Nothing.
Sweet.
Well, that's generally how, I hate to say this, but, or not hate to say this, but that's generally how the ADA works. It's about self-identification. Do you have, and I don't mean like the disability, it's about functionality, right? You have something that limits a major life function.
Sharla, thank you for coming and visiting with us this evening. It's been great having you on NFB-NEWSLINE Tennessee Presents, and you presented very well.
I enjoyed it very much. Thank you for allowing me to share my passion and have this opportunity to be with you guys tonight.
All of you who participated tonight, thank you. Thank you for coming and taking the time to listen and for engaging in the conversation. Thank you all for joining me, and it's been great visiting with you again. Remember to go to Newsline, look up articles, look up stories, read your local newspaper, delve into some of the magazines that NFB-NEWSLINE has to offer. And if you haven't signed up for NFB-NEWSLINE, you can go to NFB-NEWSLINE.org and sign up there, or you can contact me at NFB-NEWSLINE@NFBTN.org. Thank you all for joining me on another great edition of NFB-NEWSLINE Tennessee Presents.
NFB-NEWSLINE Tennessee is a proud sponsor of this podcast. To learn more about NFB-NEWSLINE, go to NFB-NEWSLINE.org or call 629-236-2428. Or you can drop us a line at NFB-NEWSLINE@NFBTN.org.
Yes, we know the truth.